Volcano apocalypse and how a mega eruption could blot out the sky, causing volcanic winter or nuclear winter, as some people call it. Sean Martin Express UK reports a major volcanic eruption could plunge Earth into a deep winter for decades, which would lead to global food shortages, putting the human race at an extinction level type of a thing. A brink of an extinction. This is what an expert has warned of. Perhaps they're coming out with these warnings because of the fact that we just had the Stromboli volcano erupting Wednesday and again yesterday. It's a terrifying scenario. It's already played out a few times in the past, according to a terrifying theory. The Toba super-eruption, which took place 74,000 years ago. It plunged the world into a global winter, which lasted for decades, in what's likely the most devastating eruption the human race has ever experienced. When Toba, which is located in Sumatra, Indonesia, erupted, 2,800 cubic kilometers of material ejected into the atmosphere. This caused an ash cloud to spread across the globe, and it caused temperatures to drop by 5 degrees Celsius for a decade. This is according to geologist Michael Rampino and volcanologist Stephen Shelf. The temperatures began to slowly pick up. This is what they believe. The eruption could have caused a dip in temperature lasting up to 1,000 years. In 1993, science journalist Ann Gibbons theorized the eruption caused a population bottleneck, where the population massively diminishes for a period of time due to, of course, environmental events, harsh conditions, people can't find food, people can't find shelter. Now experts are warning it could happen again. Brian Walsh is the author of the new book, End Times. It looks at the existential threats plaguing our planet, and he believes Toba could one day erupt again, and it will not be good news for us, the human race, that is. Walsh wrote, "What happened after Toba could happen again. Ash and sulfur from a super-eruption would reach the stratosphere, and depending on the location of the volcano and its strength, it could spread across the globe, blocking incoming sunlight and casting the world into a winter." A volcanic winter, he means. Meaning, from the ash cloud, of course, we would have cold weather, the likes of, would cause people not to be able to find food, for one. Now, a mega volcanic eruption on this scale could lead to global food shortages and have catastrophic consequences, according to a study. In 2005, a team of British scientists released a research paper titled Super-Eruptions, Global Effects and Future Threats. The study detailed the consequences of the Toba eruption. They said it is easy to imagine that an eruption on the scale of Toba would have devastating global effects. A layer of ash estimated at 15 centimeters thick fell over the entire Indian subcontinent, with similar amounts over much of Southeast Asia. Most recently, Toba ash has been found in the South China Sea, implying that several centimeters also covered southern China. Just 1 centimeter of ash is enough to devastate agricultural activity, at least when it falls in the growing season. An eruption of this size would have catastrophic consequences. Many millions of lives throughout most of Asia would be threatened if Toba erupted today. The United Kingdom might not receive any ash fall directly, but it would be affected by the impact on global economic and political stability, as well as by worldwide climatic effects. And this is what the author wrote. Of course, that goes to follow that the United States also would have such an effect. Now, the study does say a super-eruption such as Toba will only impact the Earth every 100,000 years or so. So the Toba catastrophe the super-eruption of Toba, the supervolcanic eruption that occurred 75,000 years ago. The supervolcano, a large volcano, of course, that has had an eruption of magnitude 8, which is the largest value of the Volcanic Explosivity Index, VEI. This means the volume of deposits for that eruption is greater than 1,000 cubic kilometers. So Toba happened about 75,000 years ago at the site of present-day Lake Toba in Sumatra, Indonesia. It's one of Earth's largest known eruptions, and the theory holds that this event caused a volcanic winter of 6 to 10 years, possibly a 1,000-year-long cooling episode. A volcanic winter is a reduction in global temperatures caused by the volcanic ash and droplets of sulfuric acid and water obscuring the sun and raising Earth's albedo after a large, particularly explosive volcanic eruption. Long-term cooling effects are primarily dependent upon the injection of sulfur gases. Now, in 1993, scientist, journalist Ann Gibbons postulated that a population bottleneck occurred in human evolution about 70,000 years ago because of this eruption. And Michael Rampino, New York University, volcanologist Steve himself, University of Hawaii at Manoa, of course, supported her suggestion. In 1998, the bottleneck theory was further developed by anthropologist Stanley H. Ambrose, the University of Illinois. Both the link and global winter theories are highly controversial. The Toba event is the most closely studied super-eruption. It occurred at present location of Lake Toba, Indonesia. The eruption was the last and largest of 4 eruptions of Toba during the Quaternary period, and is also recognized from its diagnostic horizon of ashfall, the youngest Toba tuff. An estimated volcanic explosivity index of 8, the highest rating of any known eruption on Earth. It made a sizable contribution to the caldera. Dense rock equivalent DRE estimates of eruptive volume of the eruption vary. The erupted mass was 100 times greater than that of the largest volcanic eruption in recent history, the 1850 eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia. 100 times greater than that. And the Mount Tambora of 1815 caused the 1916 year without a summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Amazing what happened there. I mean, it was a chaos in the, of course, in the known world, made mostly in Europe. Year without a summer. It was so cold because of severe climate abnormalities that caused average global temperatures to decrease by 0.4 to 0.7 degrees Celsius. That's about 1.26 degrees Fahrenheit. And this resulted in major food shortages across the northern hemisphere. Toba's erupted last mass deposit an ash layer of about 15 centimeters thick over the whole of South Asia, blanket of volcanic ash deposited also over the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Ocean, South China Sea. Deep sea cores retrieved from South China Sea have extended the known reach of the eruption, suggesting that a 2,800 cubic kilometer calculation of the erupted mass is a minimum value or even an underestimate of what had happened. The volcanic winter and cooling computer models, the brief dramatic cooling or volcanic winter, which resulted in a drop of global mean surface temperature of anywhere between 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. Evidence from Greenland ice cores indicate a 1,000-year period of low and increased dust deposition immediately following the eruption. The eruption may have caused this 1,000-year period of cooler temperatures, 2 centuries of which could be accounted for the persistence of the Toba stratospheric loading. Can you imagine having a 1,000-year cooler temperatures? Rampino himself believed that global cooling was already underway at the time of the eruption, but that the process was slow. Toba tuff may have provided the extra kick that caused the climate system to switch from warm to cold states. Although Clive Oppenheimer rejects the hypothesis that the eruption triggered the last glaciation, he agrees that it may have been responsible for a millennium of cooling climate prior to the 19th Dansgaard-Oeschger event. A rapid climate fluctuation that occurred 25 times during the last glacial period. Some scientists say that the events occurred quasi-periodically, with a recurrence time being a multiple of 1,170 years. According to Alan Robock, who published Nuclear Winter Papers, the Toba eruption did not precipitate the last glacial period, but assuming an emission of 6 billion tons of sulfur dioxide, his computer simulation concluded that a maximum global cooling of about 15 degrees centigrade, 15, occurred for these 3 years after the eruption, and that this cooling would last for decades and it devastated life. 15 degrees, because the saturated adiabatic lapse time, normal temperature in Earth's atmosphere changes with latitude lapse rate rises from the world lapse. The sense of gradual change is about 5 degrees centigrade for every 1,000 meters of temperature above freezing. The tree line and snow lines were around 9,900 feet lower at this time. The climate recovered after a few decades, and Roebuck found no evidence that the 1,000-year cool period seen in Greenland ice core records had resulted from the Toba eruption. In contrast, Oppenheimer believes the estimate of the drop in surface temperature by 3 to 5 degrees centigrade are probably too high, and he suggested temperature drop by 1 degree centigrade. Despite the differences, though, in estimates, scientists agree that a super-eruption of the scale of Toba must have led to very extensive ashfall layers and injection of noxious gases into the atmosphere, with worldwide effects on weather and climate. In addition, the Greenland ice core data display an abrupt climate change around this time, but there's no consensus that the eruption directly generated a 1,000-year cold period seen in Greenland or triggered the last glaciation. Now, the genetic bottleneck in humans. The Toba eruption has been linked to a genetic bottleneck in human evolution about 70,000 years ago, which may have resulted from severe reduction in the size of the total of human population due to the effects of the eruption on the global climate. According to the genetic bottleneck theory, between 50,000 and 100,000 years ago, human populations sharply decreased to 3,000 to 10,000 surviving individuals. That's nothing. That is nothing. 3,000 to 10,000 surviving individuals. It's supported that by some genetic evidence suggesting that today's humans are descendants from a very small population of between 1,000 and 10,000 breeding pairs that existed about 70,000 years ago. That's unbelievable. Very few individuals left. Does that remind you of anything? Perhaps of what we've read in Genesis in the Old Testament? Very few individuals left. Proponents of the genetic bottleneck theory, including Roebuck, suggest the Toba eruption resulted in a global economic disaster, including destruction of vegetation along with severe drought in the tropic rainforest belt and in monsoonal regions. For example, a 10-year volcanic winter triggered by the eruption could have largely destroyed the food source for humans and cause a severe reduction in population sizes. These environmental changes may have generated population bottlenecks in many species, including hominids. This is, in turn, may have accelerated differentiation from within smaller human population. Therefore, the genetic differences among modern humans may reflect changes within the last 70,000 years rather than gradual differentiation over hundreds of thousands of years. Amazing. Other research has cast doubt on the link between Toba and genetic bottleneck. For example, ancient stone tools in southern India were found above and below the thick layer of ash from the Toba eruption and were very similar across these layers. I'll leave links below for you for this. The last part was read from the text of Wikipedia on Toba. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.